Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Friday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, one man is dead and an Amtrak train derailed following a crash in northeastern Montana today. The 10 train cars careened off the tracks but stayed upright, protecting passengers and crew. Well, tonight an investigation is underway as stranded passengers wait for transport. Just before noon, Montana Highway Patrol responded to the incident in Roosevelt County between Culbertson and Bainville. Authorities tell us a man operating a John Deere sprayer tractor at the crossing with no crossing arms was killed in the collision. The westbound train with 10 cars derailed but remained upright. Amtrak reports no life-threatening injuries among the 64 passengers and 10 crew members. Now, the passengers were taken to Culbertson High School to await transportation to Seattle and Portland. Now, the BNSF track is closed for investigation tonight and repairs. The Montana Highway Patrol is now investigating a fatal crash near Columbus today. It happened just before 1 o'clock on Interstate 90, about 5 miles west of the Columbus exit in Stillwater County. According to the Department of Transportation, this is between the Springtime Interchange and Columbus Hill. Trooper Jim Salages says a pickup heading west rolled over into the median, ejecting 2 female passengers and the male driver. One of the female passengers died. All 3 were taken to the hospital. And a head-on crash south of Laurel this afternoon sent 1 man to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. It happened around 12:30 on Highway 212, about 4 miles north of Rockvale. A GMC pickup was heading south on 212, went over the center line and then crashed into a semi heading north. Trooper Jeremy Lundblad says both directions were closed for fire and ambulance crews. Lundblad says the crash was in a construction area. The Highway Patrol is still investigating. Well, tonight, another burst of confirmed COVID-19 results across Bighorn County, and health authorities say they expect more to come. Today alone, 14 new positive cases added in Bighorn County. County health officials tell us there were 5 reported this morning and added another 9 this afternoon. That brings the county total to 26. 18 of which are active. We also know that 18 of those 26 cases in the county have been in people under the age of 30. Well, Bighorn County leaders also giving a heads up today after testing more than 1,600 residents over the last 2 days in Crow Agency and in Headon. Results aren't expected for 7 to 10 days, but they do anticipate additional cases, saying the cases, quote, represent people who live, work, and shop in every area of our county, including our major towns.
You know, a lot of people are traveling everywhere, just even outside of the county to run and get groceries, and so we're asking everyone to take every precaution because we really need to protect each other in this crazy pandemic time.
And we're told 9 of the cases confirmed today were found as a result of contract tracing from previous cases. Some of the others went to their primary care doctors after showing symptoms. Well, the other 2 confirmed cases across Montana today, a Gallatin County woman in her 20s and a Missoula County man in his 60s. And also today, there was 1 more reported death in Wyoming. That death, an older woman from Fremont County who had been hospitalized and did have underlying health conditions. Well, the fired Minneapolis police officer seen pressing his knee on George Floyd's neck is now charged with 3rd-degree murder and manslaughter. In the midst of violent protests in response to Floyd's death, today a peaceful protest closer to home as dozens of people gathered at the Missoula County Courthouse. A mix of emotional speakers and song in hopes of raising awareness for a problem that they say continues to ravage the country. Organizers stood in solidarity with students of the Black Student Union at the University of Montana, saying they want to not only show support for the Black community in Missoula, but support for all people of Minnesota.
Because we're in Montana, that's why I initially had the fear of doing this rally, because we're in a predominantly white community, in a predominantly white city, in a predominantly white state. And so there was this fear of starting this. I'm very emotional about this because you can see everyone standing together in Montana.
Now, other protests are also planned across Montana this weekend, including Billings and Great Falls. Well, brides and grooms all across the state are rethinking their spring and summer wedding plans. COVID-19 has already shut down many spring nuptials and forced their couples to cancel or postpone. But as Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, one of Billings' most sought-after event venues is tackling coronavirus head-on.
Because it is overwhelming at this point. I mean, planning a wedding, or any event for that matter, is already stressful. But then you add all of these additional changes.
But those with the Billings Depot are trying to take the stress out of it. Executive Director Michelle Williams says the coronavirus hit the wedding industry hard this spring. Ceremonies here were either canceled or postponed.
When we had to close, we were shut down for the entire month of April, and our staff worked remotely.
She says they took that time to reflect on how the depot can reopen for events while still keeping the virus away.
So we've taken extra steps here to do what we can on the front end.
Things like adjusting the seating and traffic flow to accommodate for social distancing, tracking attendance, and bringing in additional staff dedicated to managing those practices.
And the Billings Depot has some of the latest technology when it comes to the fight against COVID-19, like this digital gauge right here. It's a thermometer letting you know your temperature instantly.
All of these things, Williams says, is a way to give couples their dream wedding.
Because we understand that this has increased in complexity, and we want to make it as easy as possible because it should be a beautiful experience.
All while still being able to open the venue for a busy 2020 wedding season.
We have had so many cries with our brides and our event hosts just because it is overwhelming. Our staff has taken a much larger supporting role than we ever had before, and the relationships that have been built have been so much stronger.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
And the Billings Depot will operate at 75% capacity. Now that means it can house up to 225 guests per event. And that first event is set for early June. Well, the last day of school is usually filled with smiles and goodbyes, but again this year ends with anything but normal. After 2.5 months of distance learning, students and teachers at Big Sky Elementary did get a chance to say goodbye. A reverse teacher parade this morning gave everyone a chance to put a wrap on the year. Superintendent Greg Upham told a social media audience it has been quite a ride. He became emotional when talking about how everyone came together to finish the year. He says his most memorable takeaway is the response by staff and volunteers to get food to students and families in need. Ahead on tonight's 5:30 News, we hear from a Billings mom who is spreading the word about the importance of addressing postpartum depression. And in sports, it looks like a perfect weekend for baseball. Scott sets up season openers for your Scarlets and Royals.
And coming up in the weather, we've had a few showers move across south central Montana and also the southeast corner of the state. But now it still looks like we're talking temperatures into the 90s this weekend. We'll have more about that coming up in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.